All right, thanks, Matt. Good summary there. And we are now underway in the top 8. Thanks for being with us. We've got Ross Merriam, SCG grinder from the bulk of the last decade here at Nerd Rage Series. First time against Travis Williams, playing a mono white hammer.
Yeah, I do think that it is worth mentioning that we have 8 pretty individual deck lists in this top 8.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I would
so
say
cool.
the closest decks to each other are like Burn and Is It Prowess share a lot of similarities, and Is It Murktide and Jeskai Breach share a lot of similarities. But for those of you who've been watching the format, you could probably tell that that's not very similar. So the fact that we're having that many different styles of deck get into our top 8 is pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ross Merriam, no early creatures. Travis Williams with a pair of 0 drops. So hoping to get things started here. I don't think we want to be attacking for 1, though, for very long.
Nobody has paid any mana for any spells so far. Oh, what is
And
this?
5 spells have been cast. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. That's pretty
What the heck?
remarkable. Okay, Stoneforge Mystic.
Finally, some mana.
Stoneforge Mystic into play. Also notable, I don't believe all the hammer decks that we've seen today have had cranial plating, but there is one in Travis Williams' hand. We will get to
Oh.
the deck lists between games. Travis thinking Cauldron Complete, thinking Colossus Hammer. Goes with Shadow Spear. That was kind of cute. Pulls one to the front, pulls the other one to the front, and then just, slaps his hands, and the other one falls out of the middle of the deck.
It's a magic trick. I
And
like this one the most.
and attacks with 1 Memnite.
And
Deciding
not the other
right.
one.
I does not want to trade off Stoneforge Mystic for Dash Ragavan or get hit by Dash Ragavan. So the
Okay.
solution is hold back 1 Memnite, which makes sense.
All right, we'll see if it ends up mattering and if that is a game plan that Ross was choosing to go with.
Whether it ends up mattering or not, still, it's an alert play. All right, Ross will effectively scry with his Bauble and decides he does not like the card. This is not the matchup for Ragavan anyway. This is the matchup for aerial combat or combo kills, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Probably true, and combo kills could... It seems weird. I feel like you're trying to do either a really fast combo kill or you're trying to kind of control the game until you have a stable point where you're able to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. I mean, it is a combo that, while you can execute it early if you draw the cards, there's not a lot of, there's no tutoring in the deck. It's just a matter of, I mean, there's some filtering, there's some minor card advantage.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know. Is it blasphemy to say Expressive Iteration is minor card advantage? I mean, it's just a 2 for 1.
It is a very, very good card that, is card advantage. It's not minor card advantage. It is card advantage.
All right. So we are making progress going through the deck, trying to find those cards, but it is 2 specific cards that need to be found: Underworld Breach and Grinding Station. Although I guess you only have to have the Breach in hand. The Grinding Station can be, in the deck or in the graveyard. I mean,
Spirebluff Canal basically entering tapped.
There is Ragavan. There is a Mox. So yeah, this Memnite that stayed back perhaps did matter there.
Yeah, I guess Travis doesn't know that the Ragavan was pulled off of the Expressive Iteration and that at that point it wasn't going to be possible to dash a Ragavan. But if we didn't exactly know that, then we could have figured that the Expressive Iteration being the play instead of dashing Ragavan is because we kept a Memnite back.
You always want to congratulate yourself on plays, whether they, maybe were good or not. Yeah.
Whether they were real or fictitious.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to keep morale up.
Extremely.
I am certainly one that sometimes when games online start to go badly, I just concede to get them over with. It's like, I don't want to suffer through 10 minutes of demoralizing beatdown here. Let's just end it and we get to start over. I mean, we still count it in the loss column, but we don't have to live through it.
I'm kind of in that boat too. Especially like I'm always just like in my own home. You would do this to me in my own home. I know it's over the internet, but it still feels insulting. And then, yeah, I'll do the same thing. So better to just save myself the mental points and like maybe mark down like what caused the loss and then move on from it.
All right. Memnite holds cranial plating here, attacks in for
Does
looks
it
like
hold it or wear it?
it's cranial plating. I suppose it's wearing it. You're right. I've never considered the semantics of the card or tried to figure out. Yeah.
That's fair. I probably think about them too much. So, ooh. Teferi gonna come down for Ross and says, "Return your Saga, ye woof."
Okay, and Ross just going to pass. So this is my instinct would say this favors Ross. I mean, the more turns that go by, he's closer and closer to finding grinding station. And while Travis can do a lot of damage out of nowhere, without equippers, and he doesn't appear to have any right now, it is somewhat limited on what he can do.
Extremely true. Has a land choice to make. Can go with the Urza Saga from last time. This could be a little bit of a scary place to decide to attack as well. Shadow Spear going to be the play. Oh, I guess we have the Stoneforge Mystic as well. So it would feel a little bit bad to. It hurts a little bit to attack our Stoneforge Mystic into a Ragavan, but I have to imagine that also getting rid of Teferi is something that we have to be interested in.
So the equipment are split up here, which makes for a much more blockable attack, but it's better against removal.
Yeah.
So interesting choice here from Travis Williams, and I believe Ross does have an Unholy Heat in hand.
Well, I feel like the way that Ross has kind of navigated that last turn kind of televises having an Unholy Heat. Though I would probably say that, yeah, Teferi Time Raveler being a 3-mana gain me about 4 life and time walk my opponent is an okay turn.
Not too bad. Yeah. Not too bad. All right. So Ross is going to use the Ragavan and the Unholy Heat and get rid of the 2 Memnites. Leaving Travis with not a whole lot going on, but a lot of potential on the board. And Ross draws another breach.
Bridge is banned.
What?
Right, what did they unban the bridge? Bridge from below?
Oh. Yeah, I suppose that's banned. I don't have any idea.
That's
you
just
got me caught there because
that's the first card I thought of when you said bridge, but I guess there's also ensnaring bridge.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Not only is there ensnaring bridge in a different one of our top 8 decks, it's also in one of your decks, and you immediately go to bridge from below.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, so I'm thinking about like Underworld Breach, Bridge from Below. They're both in references to the Underworld.
Sure. Okay.
So that's how my brain got there.
All right. You, Becky Bell, and I in sync is what you're watching here, what you're listening to. Thanks for being here, everybody. Okay, so Ross Merriam finishes thoughts on how he's going to start this turn, and is it going to be a potential mini breach? Well, okay, I don't think that Mox taps for mana right now.
Yeah,
so we're gonna have to catch that immediately if we
agree.
can. And if
we do not have a Ragavan.
Stop. Yeah, can we get, or maybe we're wrong, but it taps for using
does
Teferi.
It tap for Teferi?
Yeah, it's Teferi.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tapping for Teferi. No. Yeah, and there's the spider coming in, and then they're gonna correct us, and we're gonna look idiots again. But no, it's
better
been
safe than sorry.
It's been tapping for Ragavan mana all day. There's Teferi in play at the moment, and it works just fine. And we will continue on. Nothing to see here. Except high level play, questionable commentary.
Okay, so we're breaching just to do Expressive Iteration again. I also had honestly thought that Teferi died too.
No, Teferi survives.
Even though, Ross went out of his way to use a removal spell and a Ragavan, my brain was just like, nope, no Teferi.
Mm-hmm. All right, he did find the guarding station off of the Expressive Iteration, so he's in business here.
Do we call that business or winning the lottery?
Well, if he wins this tournament, they'll be winning the lottery. Going
Okay,
from no points on the year, I believe, to an entry into the Nerd Race Championship would be excellent result for him or anyone that makes it in. And he is up a game on the back of the combo being assembled. Like we said, I mean, just you have to find both pieces. He did eventually, and that's it.
Yeah, and we kind of on that same thought process kind of mentioned that this hammer deck really has to just break out immediately. You've got to be making sure that you are playing as fast of a game plan and being able to just stop what Ross was trying to do as well. And it's kind of a hard line to toe. And so we'll take a look at the deck lists as I'm kind of talking about this a little bit more, but it's very difficult to try and be winning the game while also trying to stop a combo from your opponents. But at the same time, we saw how long it took for Ross to assemble pieces to make that turn end up working. And if we had had a little bit more than just 2 Mem Knights happening for Travis, I think that game could have been a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, 2 Mem Knights and then hardcast cranial plating, equip it, and then I mean, it's just multiple turns of mana just went nowhere. I mean, he did try and split up the equipment, so at least the mana wouldn't go completely to waste, but it was still very sluggish. So we look at the mono white hammer deck from Travis Williams, and we're looking for a draw. I mean, ideally includes Pure Steel Paladin or Sigarda's Aid instead of neither. But there are things to incorporate from the sideboard here. There are, I mean, Sanctifier Infect can trim out some of the graveyard. March of Otherworldly White can do a lot. And Drannith Magistrate does actually shut off spells played off Expressive Iteration and Underworld Breach. So
Very true.
A meaningful card in the matchup. I mean, maybe you Pithing Needle, Grinding Station as well. So there's a number of cards that can come in here.
Yeah, it kind of just ends up being like what comes out. And there's a lot of kind of little cards that I feel like you wouldn't be toolboxing for in this deck. So that could be the decision making there. And let's take a look at the Jeskai Breach deck for Ross Merriam here. See what some of these decisions might end up looking like.
All right, so Ross is going to need some removal. Now that we can see the players are looking at each other's deck lists, we've reached the point of the tournament where the deck lists are open. So
and available for you to see online.
That's true. Yeah. If you head to MTG Melee, you should be able to see the deck lists now for any player in the tournament, any deck you want to look at. Ross knows he's up against a couple copies of Drannith Magistrate. So maybe he identifies those Furies as cards he wants to bring in. Maybe he wants some of his removal just to slow down. Because not only does Ross have to stop the Travis's, hate cards, but he also has to, stop Travis from just winning the game.
Extremely, yeah.
So explosives, wear and tear, prismatic ending, all those cards are pretty reasonable as well. So trimming out the right selection of cards, finding the optimal 60 for the sideboard games is something that comes with experience and practice. And Ross Merriam likely is putting plenty of both of those at this point.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when you see somebody like Ross Merriam, somebody who, like you just said, has a lot of time and energy put into the deck and playing this many different and this diverse of answers to different problems in the deck. And sure, you're usually going through a lot of your deck, so you're able to kind of search for things like those engineered explosives or Pithing Needle alongside being able to get those off of Urza's Saga. But it's interesting to see diversity in a sideboard to this extent, down to Fury, which is something that feels relatively new for a lot of these Jeskai Breach decks.
Okay, players are shuffling up. Getting ready to present for game number 2 of the top 8. Again, the top 4 will be played at 9 Eastern tomorrow morning. Same channel, twitch.tv/NRG Series. And I hope that was correct. NRG Series, right? Yep, that's right. And so look forward to seeing you back then. Dominic Harvey will be back in the morning. And then as we move through the day and into the Pioneer 5K, Dominic will be around for a few rounds. And then Mason Clark, who played today in the event, will make it home in time to provide commentary and walk us through the rest of the Pioneer tomorrow afternoon. So
it's just going to drive home and do commentary?
Yeah.
That's fun. Okay.
Yeah. He decided he wanted to play the Modern event. And
I mean, this is a pretty big Modern event to play. Do you know that first place qualifies you for the Nerd Rage Championship?
No way.
Yeah,
well, that's high stakes stuff. In addition to the finalists receive entry into the regional championship, which if you're playing in the United States is in San Diego. Pretty exciting stuff. You might see Becky and I there, as it is local as far as these things go for us.
Yeah, certainly. And I am going to be there whether I qualify for it or not, because, why not? And it's close enough that, like Joe said, I can go and I can play a bunch of last chance stuff, see what I can make happen, and say hi to all you lovely folks there. And if you're thinking about saying hi as well for that championship tournament, make sure that you hit that follow button so that you can be notified when we go live for that tournament in January, as well as all of the other tournaments that we're going to have next year.
Okay, we are. Well, Travis bluffed me on that one. I was going to say we're underway, but he actually changed his mind on what land he may have wanted to start with there.
Yeah, going back and forth. It's always a tough decision. Okay. All right, Springleaf Drum. 0
Wowzers! Here
mana
comes
creature.
So he may have heard us that he wasn't doing enough. Early game, and there we go. 5 cards on the board. Now, a number of years ago, I remember Matthias Hunt talking about for affinity decks, they have to play 5 cards in the first turn to have a chance. Well, this isn't quite the same deck, but there is 5 cards on the board.
I would call this deck new affinity. No, I wouldn't call it new affinity, but I would say that, like, if somebody was like, "Oh, I used to play affinity. What deck should I play in Modern now?" This would be the first one that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Not 8cast. You wouldn't go to Thought Monitor, Thoughtcast right away. I mean, that deck actually has cards.
Has cards that say affinity, but I think this deck is better, and I would rather put somebody towards a better deck.
Mm-hmm.
Some 8cast players in the chat are about to get real angry with me.
That's okay. They're already pissed at us for messing up the Mox thing in game 1.
Yeah. Oh well.
All right. So explosives leads to Emery on turn 1 for Ross. So also getting quite a few things into play. And this explosives looks like, well, it's got Ornithopter and Memnite it can take out. That's not nothing. In fact, it's part of Travis's mana base at this point.
Yeah, that certainly is a little bit rough. And Ross has got to be feeling pretty good about having that as a little bit of an answer to some of the things that Travis has already started to put together. And pretty important to mention that this Esper Sentinel was also able to draw 2 cards.
No, it's only once a turn, but
sure. But even still, we're going from what was 2 cards left in hand at the end of last turn, and we've gotten to
no, definitely added 1 and then draw step brings up to 4, and now some options here for Travis Williams. Had to think about what land you wanted to play on turn 1, and now thinking probably about what this Pithing Needle wants to do. I mean, there's multiple targets already. Emery and explosives are both reasonable. You could name Grinding Station for long term. I mean, there's real options here. And 2 1/1s are going to attack into Emery here.
Okay. I wish we could just like show off that we just called the bluff. That would have been fun. But not going to be the case. And instead going to tap for this Pithing Needle. And do you name EE?
I don't know. I think naming Emery is fine. Ross going to break Bauble in response. That makes sense. Yeah, and you know what? Okay, the Emery is the name there, clearly. Ross, I mean, not blocking there with the Emery. I mean, probably the only card. Well, I guess there's Blacksmith Skill and there's Iganjo, which is what Travis actually has. But if you wonder if was Travis willing to make that actually a pure bluff, because that wasn't really a bluff because he did have the Iganjo.
Yeah.
If Travis is not willing to bluff there, then Ross would maybe be able to figure out exactly what what Travis's hand is right now.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
So that's potentially a drawback of bluffing there, is you give away the fact that if you're not bluffing, well, now Ross knows your hand. But if it was worth 2 damage, maybe that's worthwhile. Maybe that's even worth giving up the knowledge of your hand, which isn't good anyway, for 2 damage getting through.
And it's hard because I feel like this is one of those decks where kind of getting through the last little bit of damage does end up mattering. Especially it feels like in this matchup, because it does so often come down to those little bits of damage that you get, because this deck has things like the Aether Spellbomb and ways that kind of quickly dismantle when you try to put together one big creature holding 2 Colossus Hammers.
Okay, well, if you were bluffing it game 1 or last turn, you could do the same again and force Ross to call. However, the Emery is now worth a lot less since the Pithing Needle's in play. So Ross is much more likely to actually block, and then Travis will have to decide, well, is it actually worth my turn to do that?
Yeah.
The answer might be yes, because he has so little else going on right now.
Yeah, and Ross not doing anything on the last turn and not allowing for Esper Sentinel to pick up extra cards for Travis is certainly keeping a lot of things at bay as a Fury is drawn.
Less good than it was 5 seconds ago.
I was just about to say, too, like, timing.
And can't Fury that Pithing Needle, which is probably the most important card alongside there's a Saga for Travis right now.
Yeah, do we not have another land? There's no way that we don't have a land or a Mox Amber. Is there?
Are you sure there's no way? Because I think we may be looking at the way. There is Expressive Iteration. There is potential access to lands, but
All right. Well, if there's no lands in hand on our own, I mean, everything in this deck is so cheap. Like, there's a million choices in reality, but Ross really saying untimed top 8. I'm thinking every single one of these through.
Sure, and he's entitled to, and he's right to. So the problem with Expressive Iteration is Esper Sentinel will trigger, and that's undesirable. There's Unholy Heat and Fury, either of which can kill the Sentinel. Using the Fury doesn't mean Ross has to wait a turn for the iteration. So he's choosing card disadvantage here in order to have time advantage. At least that's what I would imagine the thought process is, the consideration is.
All right. Pitch cast Fury, going to be the start. Get rid of that Esper Sentinel. And now that we are not blocked by this Esper Sentinel anymore, what is going to be the game plan for Ross, starting off with a Prismatic Ending to take care of Pithing Needle and unlock Emery?
Yeah, well, that seems pretty crucial here. And Travis is giving this a think, but we know he doesn't have any way of interacting with that. And then now Bauble is, Emery is unlocked. This turn is going to be a Bauble, and Ross is going to pass. So missing the land drop, but now with Unholy Heat and now with more of his hand functional, with the Emery just being able to start, doing its thing, drawing an extra card every turn or potentially casting yourselves in the graveyard. Travis, I mean, construct stuff can start flowing. But that's all we're looking at right now.
I mean, it's got to start flowing again. Yeah, you've said it. It's the only thing that is going on for Travis right now. And I think that the hope has to be that Ross can't cobble anything together with missing land drops and us amassing some constructs.
Yeah, now Ross drew another explosives. Plus, he can replay the one from the graveyard at some point if he wants to with Emery. The problem with, well, he can't explosives for one because he doesn't have a third land. But those constructs aren't going to make much headway, and Travis might be wishing there were additional Pithing Needles available to search up, but I don't believe there are.
Yeah, and it's not like we play Karn the Great Creator and we can go grab it from exile.
No, indeed not. Although, yeah, Card Great Creator would solve the explosives problem in multiple different ways.
Oh, yeah. Would be pretty clunky in the hammer deck, though.
I mean, there was a Yorion deck in Pioneer where Karn was pretty clunky. You know, some people still played it. Will Kruger still registered it at the regional championship. I mean, he didn't win any matches, but still, it was a legitimate deck, at least for a little while in some people's eyes. All right, here is the iteration. Ross Merriam looking for probably a land. He does find one. And is that two Furies?
There's no way. There was only 2 Furies in the sideboard.
That's what I thought.
So, I mean, if it is 2 Furies, that would be a
it's
problem.
Probably.
Could be like an Unholy Heat or something that just has a similar look to it. Taking a long time to decide where those are going.
Well, I'm sure he's, I mean, he is, but I'm sure he's putting quite a bit of thought into this as, he only gets so many shots at like free extra cards here. Notably, Emery not activate this turn. That's not something we see every day.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe. Maybe just gonna do it end of turn? I don't know. All right. First construct on the board, trying to decide what we're doing with this other Urza Saga before things get wiped off the board.
All right, so no construct incoming, and Ross may be looking at Emery just as a blocker here, because with Sigarda's Aid and Hammer coming in, Nexus is pretty dangerous. It does have Bolt in hand. Bolt at the moment can kill the construct that's in play, although that will no longer be the case once the hammer joins in, because now Nexus can animate to get around that.
Yeah. All right. Presented and hammer up. Put ourselves a basic mountain.
So what are we? So Ross is presumably, since he fetched right now, he's responding to something, or he just wants to have the mountain in place so that there's another fetch that Travis can respond to later on.
You would have had to respond to the chapter 3 trigger. Okay. So yeah, Unholy Heat with Delirium doesn't make it matter.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And now one. Yeah, Travis may. I believe Travis' hand is yes. Okay, it's Ornithopter and Iganjo.
Yeah, not ideal, certainly. And especially now that we are sans a creature. Ornithopter kind of fixes that, but potentially not in the way that we would like. And we could try to go with this.
Okay, so the one floating Saga mana goes into the Nexus, and I think we have to play the Ornithopter here. Yeah, okay, Ornithopter into play, so there is enough mana to make a construct next turn. Travis gets in 1 infect damage because he can, and it's free. There's no reason not to do it.
Nice, get that infect counter there.
Oh, we have all the tricks in our Rich Gaming.
Beautiful. All right, things starting to look pretty good. 4th land found for Ross. Merriam, grinding station in hand.
Well, I don't want to say for sure, but if there's a breach also, then he may be somewhat wary because Corey does have a card in hand, but the door is open. And if Ross is really on top of his game, he may be able to identify that the card in Corey's hand, if
in Travis's hand.
I don't know why I keep saying that. In Travis's hand,
we're just so used to seeing Ross against Corey Baumeister.
I guess maybe that's it. If Travis was not bluffing when he attacked early on with those two Memnites, then if he was not bluffing, then the card in his hand is something related to combat, which would mean that there is no opposition to any sort of combo the Russ might attempt to pull off. Explosives for 1. Pretty solid play as well.
Yeah, Travis going to make a construct in response. Unfortunately, lose 3 permanents in response.
Yeah.
Place with the E.
Yeah, and Ross, I mean, just exhausting Travis of resources.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly. Says, I can't win the game yet, but you sure as heck can't either.
Right.
All right. Hey, of all the things that we could be getting, the Urza Sagas, they're at least letting us make constructs that are eating up spells from our opponent.
Sort of. I mean, now they're just gonna eat up Emery tapping activations to replay explosives in the graveyard. That's hard to get anywhere. I mean, 1 infect damage was done to Ross Merriam. But that's a long way short of 9 or of 10. 9 more needed.
I mean, that might be the direction that we have to go. Or, I mean, you kind of said it. If we're just slowly waiting for everything to be coming onto play and then being an Emery activation away from just dying to EE.
Yeah.
Ross just has to continue to make land drops until a combo is assembled.
Yeah. And Travis is making, I mean, every turn that goes by, Travis's board is getting smaller.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've seen this EE be a 1 for 3 twice.
Yeah. Okay. So Travis Williams finds a Colossus Hammer. Now, even though Ross does seem to be establishing a pretty strong presence here, I mean, there's a lot to play for here. Travis Williams is not going to give up. He's still going to see if he can manufacture a win out of this just to get to game 3. But it is looking, it's a little hard to see right now. Colossus Hammer into play. But Ross Merriam, yeah, even if there's a combo, he wins. If there's not, Emery just blows away Travis's board again.
I have to let you know that Corey Baumeister said, if you're thinking of me, you can just send me a DM.
Okay. Ottawa, another land drop for Ross. Their explosives.
You said it, and it's just slowly coming to fruition in unfortunate terms here for Travis Williams, as that EE is bought back, land drop made. We have a grinding station and an Underworld Breach in hand, so Ross is really just like, all right, I just need all my mana next turn, and I think that this game is pretty much over as those combo pieces being assembled, and we should have more than enough things in the graveyard to likely mill ourselves over to a Mox Amber.
Right. No, that does seem likely. There may be some potential cards that Travis could have in hand that Ross would cause Ross to slow play or to think through his options here, but even that's a little hard to come up with. There's only white mana available. Some potential removal spells that would go towards Underworld Breach are just unlikely to be there, because if they were, they probably would have targeted Emery already.
That's fair enough. And Ross Merriam raising both hands to think.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily. I mean, Travis is so wrecked by this recursive explosives right now. Ross might be able to just attack with Emery 20 times and win this game.
That's fair enough.
But here we now see the breach.
I love that the moment. It's just, it makes sense. I understand why it happens, but it's funny. The breach gets played, and then your graveyard is your new hand.
Yeah, that is pretty much the reality of it. Okay, there is the Bauble. There is the grinding station.
Figure out what I'm exiling. Activate this grinding station.
So Ross holds on to the grinding station in hand, and it's just going to use the one from the graveyard, so that if this somehow gets blown up, he is better able to recover for a future reattempt. But
and it only took us one activation to find the Mox Amber. Does Travis still just have the one card in hand?
I think it's just the Iganjo, yeah.
Woof.
I mean, he has drawn a couple of Urza Sagas, but those were more than trumped by the engineered explosives.
Exactly. All right. Activate Emery. And now.
Yeah, here we go.
Start making some mana. Start untapping this grinding station. Another Underworld Breach. Start throwing some things into this exile zone.
Yeah, and Ross Merriam has maneuvered his way, and I don't expect to see him make mistakes from here. Ross Merriam is looking to move on to the top four of this event, one step closer to the Norwich Championship. He was confident in his deck. We talked to him this morning. He sounded very knowledgeable of his deck. Seemed like he really understood what was going on, and he has proven it so far today.
Oh, yeah, and continuing to prove it, as Travis says, go through the whole combo. Show me. Underworld Breach number 2.
Right. That is for even more redundancy in case Travis has some sort of removal held back. It no longer does any purpose.
Yep, and at this
point, there's no weak points left. Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, Ross is just kind of digging through with this grinding station and this Mox Amber, generating some extra blue mana to find the Thassa's Oracle to win the game from. And we know that Travis's last card in hand is nothing more than an Iganjo.
But Ross does not know that.
That's true.
So completely reasonable for him. Even when you have an overwhelming advantage, you don't want to slip away. You don't want to overlook something and die to some fluke.
Yeah, at this point, Ross has to be like, well, I guess if you're making me do it, okay.
All right, so now we can confirm Ross did not accidentally board out the Thassa's Oracle.
Yep, confirmed. Way to win the game. All right, we're at like 5 cards left. Let's do it one more time. Our devotion to blue is going to be 3 when we cast Thassa's Oracle. Use the blue mana, cast it.
And done. Ross Merriam advances to the top 4.
All right. Top 4, and as you mentioned, said that he was confident in this deck, confident in this strategy going into this weekend, and is showing off with it nicely into top 4, taking out Mono White Hammer. GG's to Travis as well. And a big GG's to Ross, who's going to continue on to play tomorrow morning.
I mean, we asked him this morning, like, is this the best deck in the format? And he said, yeah. I mean, he didn't even, I mean, there was no hedging or anything. He was like, yes, it is. And certainly it has looked good today. So that is going to conclude the coverage for today. Thanks for everyone being here. If you want to get notifications when we kick things back up again for the top 4 in the morning, hit the follow button. Nerd Rage Louisville will continue at 9 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning with the semifinals and finals of the Modern 15K Showdown. Once that's complete, we'll move into the Pioneer 5K by the end of the weekend. By this time tomorrow, well, plus a few hours maybe, within 30 hours, we will have locked up the remainder of the championship field. But still a lot of Magic left to be played before then. Thanks to Becky Bell for being with us here this afternoon, and with Dominic Hardy here this morning. This is Nerd Rage Gaming signing off for today. We'll be back in the morning. We'll see you then.